In particular, this mountain that Moses is standing on. This is Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb in the Bible.
I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac.
Amid the ongoing unrest in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, home to the two holiest cities in Islam, has recently made headlines due to new evidence that has emerged regarding its surprising connections to Christianity and Judaism. This well-known Islamic state has become entwined in the search to locate Mount Sinai, a site of profound spiritual significance for Jews. In a remarkable twist of events, atheists have stumbled upon one of the world's most well-guarded secrets, hinted at in biblical texts for millennia. What is this secret, and how was it discovered in Saudi Arabia after several centuries? Join us as we unravel what atheists just discovered in Saudi Arabia that shocked the whole world. For centuries, the biblical narrative has profoundly influenced the beliefs and cultures of civilizations worldwide. However, scholars and theologians have long grappled with the complexities of verifying certain claims and locations mentioned in the Bible. Among these mysterious places is Mount Sinai, often referred to as the Mountain of Moses. This revered mountain is traditionally believed to be the very place where Moses received the Ten Commandments from God, as recounted in the Hebrew Bible, Exodus 19-20. As you would expect, the search for the actual Mount Sinai has captivated the attention of explorers and scholars for centuries. While the prevailing identification of Jebel Musa in the southern part of the Sinai Peninsula as Mount Sinai has endured for many years, a recent and unexpected discovery by certain atheists has presented a new perspective, linking the sacred mountain to Saudi Arabia. Though this discovery may seem improbable, there is emerging evidence that substantiates this claim, potentially unraveling a long-kept secret guarded by Saudi authorities. But, before delving into these new findings, it is essential to grasp the significance of Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai, also known as Mount Horeb in the Bible, holds immense significance in the Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In Judaism, Mount Sinai is traditionally believed to be the sacred location where Moses received the Ten Commandments directly from God, as described in the biblical book of Exodus. After leading the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, Moses ascended Mount Sinai and spent a remarkable 40 days and 40 nights in communion with God. It was during this period that God unveiled the laws and commandments that would form the bedrock of Jewish religious and ethical practices. Similarly, for Christians, Mount Sinai is intricately connected to the biblical account of Moses receiving the Ten Commandments. This event holds profound significance in both Judaism and Christianity, as it established the covenant between God and the Israelites, influencing subsequent Christian beliefs concerning law, covenant, and divine revelation. The New Testament also references Mount Sinai as the place where the prophet Elijah sought refuge after escaping from Queen Jezebel. In Islam, Mount Sinai is known as Jebel Musa, meaning the Mountain of Moses. It is believed to be the very site where Moses received divine revelations from Allah, God. Islamic tradition holds that Moses ascended this mountain to directly communicate with Allah and receive guidance for himself and his people. The story of Moses and Mount Sinai is mentioned in various chapters of the Quran, highlighting its immense significance in Islamic theology. Throughout history, scholars and researchers have engaged in debates and discussions about the precise location of Mount Sinai. In early Christianity, it served as both a symbol and a physical destination for pilgrims who sought to visit places associated with the sacred stories and events described in the Hebrew Bible. This desire to connect with the sacred led to the rise of Christian monasticism in the 4th century CE, with Mount Sinai becoming a sought-after location for monks seeking solitude and a life devoted to God. This movement reflected a broader trend within Christianity, where individuals yearn to detach themselves from worldly concerns and pursue spiritual goals with greater intensity. To commemorate this spiritual significance,
Emperor Justinian I
ordered the construction of St. Catherine's Monastery, also known as the Monastery of the Transfiguration, at the base of Mount Sinai between 548 and 565 CE. Since its construction, St. Catherine's Monastery has played a vital role in preserving Christian heritage and ancient manuscripts. It houses an extensive collection of ancient texts, including some of the earliest known versions of the Bible, such as the Codex Sinaiticus. This manuscript holds high esteem among scholars and offers valuable insights into the development of biblical texts. Of particular intrigue is the strategic location of the monastery near what was believed to be the site of Moses' burning bush, another significant biblical event connected to Mount Sinai. The monastery stands as a testament to the enduring spiritual and historical importance of this sacred mountain. While the historical and religious significance of Mount Sinai is well established, recent discoveries by atheists linking the sacred mount to Saudi Arabia have shocked people all over the world. Atheists and scholars are now raising crucial questions to better understand these revelations. And here's the big question: where is Mount Sinai, and what efforts has been made in discovering the exact location of Mount Sinai? The quest to determine the precise location of Mount Sinai has long been a topic of confusion and debate. Numerous factors contribute to the challenge of pinpointing its geographical whereabouts. One significant reason is the existence of multiple mountains bearing the name Mount Sinai, scattered across different parts of the world. For example, one can be found in the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt, while another exists in Saudi Arabia. The presence of multiple mountains with the same name understandably leads to misunderstandings and discrepancies when discussing their specific locations. Complicating matters further, historical accounts and religious texts sometimes provide vague or contradictory information about the location of Mount Sinai. This lack of clarity may stem from incomplete records, cultural interpretations, or even intentional obfuscation. In an effort to unravel this mystery, researchers and scholars have employed various methods and approaches. They delve into historical documents, conduct archaeological investigations, utilize geographical data, and compare different sources to shed light on this enduring mystery. Let us explore an intriguing alternative theory put forth by a researcher named Professor Emanuele Anati. While traditional interpretations place Mount Sinai in the southern part of the Sinai Peninsula, Anati suggests that it might be located in the Negev Desert in present-day southern Israel. Anati's hypothesis is based on extensive fieldwork and analysis of rock art sites in both the Sinai Peninsula and the Negev Desert. He noticed striking similarities between the rock art in these areas, leading him to believe that the same ancient cultural groups created them. These similarities encompass artistic style, symbolic motifs, and the subjects depicted in the rock art. What makes Anati's theory even more compelling is his argument about the geography and topography of the Negev Desert. He posits that these features align more closely with the biblical descriptions of Mount Sinai than the traditional site in the Sinai Peninsula. According to Professor Emanuele Anati, the Negev Desert would have provided a more suitable environment for a large group of people to gather and camp for an extended period, as described in the biblical accounts. Anati's theory gained support from Professor Menashe Harel, an Israeli geographer and biblical scholar. To further bolster Anati's point, Professor Harel delved into the biblical text, finding various descriptions and clues that indicated the Negev Desert as the possible location of Mount Sinai. He carefully analyzed passages from the Book of Exodus, such as Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, which mention Moses tending to sheep near Horeb, the mountain of God. Harel argued that this description matches the geography of the southern part of the Negev Desert, where suitable grazing areas for sheep exist. To emphasize that the southern part of the Negev Desert possesses natural features that correspond with biblical descriptions of Mount Sinai, he pointed out the distinct topographical characteristics of Jebel Karom, a mountain located in the central Negev that resembles a volcanic peak, aligning with the biblical depiction of Mount Sinai covered in smoke and fire. Furthermore, Professor Harel examined other biblical references to Mount Sinai. For example, he focused on Exodus chapter 19, verses 1 and 2, which state that the Israelites arrived at Sinai after leaving Rephidim and passing through the desert of Sinai. Harel suggested that Rephidim could be identified with a location in the central Negev called Faran Oasis. According to his theory, this would place Sinai near Rephidim, providing further support for his hypothesis. Additionally, Professor Harel carefully considered archaeological evidence in the Negev region, noting the presence of several ancient sites that could potentially be connected to the biblical events at Mount Sinai. One such site is Serabit el-Qadim, an ancient center for copper mining and religious activities in the southern part of the central Negev. Harel argued that Serabit el-Qadim aligns with Mount Sinai based on similarities between its archaeological remains and descriptions of a sacred mountain in ancient texts. As expected, there were contrary beliefs held by individuals like Charles Tilstone Beck, a 19th-century British explorer, geographer, and biblical scholar. Initially, Beck proposed that Mount Sinai was situated in the southern part of the Sinai Peninsula near the modern town of Al-Tur. He based this theory on his study of ancient texts and his interpretation of the geographical descriptions found in the Bible. However, in 1871, Beck published his most daring theory about Mount Sinai in his book, The Late Dr. Charles Beck's Discoveries of Sinai in Arabia and of Midian, which was released after his death in 1874. In this work, he proposed that Mount Sinai was not located on the Sinai Peninsula, but in northwestern Saudi Arabia near Jebel al-Lawz. Beck supported his argument with several factors. Firstly, he carefully analyzed the biblical descriptions of Mount Sinai mentioned in the Book of Exodus and compared them with the geographical features of the traditional site in the southern Sinai Peninsula. He concluded that there were significant inconsistencies between the biblical account and the real topography of the traditional location. Secondly, Beck examined the accounts of early Christian pilgrims who visited the region, finding their descriptions of the landscape to match the northwestern Saudi Arabian region rather than the Sinai Peninsula. Additionally, Beck analyzed the ancient land boundaries in the Bible and argued that the region of Midian, where Moses fled and married Zipporah, according to the biblical account, was located in northwestern Saudi Arabia. Beck's theory gained some attention and has been embraced by a small number of researchers and explorers. His theory remains a minority view and is not widely accepted by the academic communities. Eventually, Beck's theory faced significant skepticism from other scholars and researchers. They have dismissed and criticized his interpretation of biblical texts and archaeological findings, deeming them subjective or flawed. While his theory is compelling, the debate regarding the exact location of Mount Sinai persists among scholars and researchers. Soon, an intriguing yet controversial theory was put forth by an American researcher named Ron Wyatt. Ignoring the trend of other theorists, Wyatt posited that Mount Sinai could be found in Jebel al-Lawz, a mountain situated in western Saudi Arabia. Wyatt's theory was based on his interpretation of Exodus chapter 3 verse 1, where it is mentioned that Moses kept Jethro's flocks in the land of Midian, reasoning that since Jethro was a priest of Midian, the mountain of God encountered by Moses must also be located in the land of Midian. To support his theory, Wyatt pointed to various pieces of evidence he had unearthed. Notably, he highlighted a large pile of granite rocks near the mountain's base, adorned with petroglyphs depicting Egyptian-style bovine cows and oxen. According to Wyatt, these petroglyphs were unique to Saudi Arabia and likely the remains of the Great Altar of Israel at the foot of Mount Sinai, possibly linked to the Golden Calf story. In 1978, while continuing his explorations, Wyatt claimed to have stumbled upon the Red Sea crossing at a place called Nuwaba in the Gulf of Aqaba, the eastern branch of the Red Sea. Based on this discovery, he deduced that the real Mount Sinai must be situated east of the path of the Red Sea crossing in western Saudi Arabia. Jebel al-Laws being the highest peak in the entire western Saudi Arabian mountain range fits this description admirably. Wyatt's passion for his theory led him to undertake a daring expedition in 1984, where he and his two sons illegally entered Saudi Arabia to further explore and document the area surrounding Jebel al-Laws. Unfortunately, their audacious endeavor came to an abrupt halt when they were apprehended by Saudi authorities. Their films were confiscated and they were detained for a lengthy 78-day period on charges of being Israeli spies. Undeterred, Wyatt later returned to the region legally, embarking on a self-described treasure-hunting mission. His goal was twofold: to search for the Mountain of God and to uncover potential Egyptian treasures hidden in the area, including remnants of Pharaoh's army at the bottom of the Red Sea. To the astonishment of many, Wyatt claimed to have made significant discoveries during his expeditions. He purportedly found remnants of Pharaoh's chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea, facing Jebel al-Laws. Moreover, a blackened mountaintop, interpreted as a sign of the fire of God, and a massive split rock resembling a powerful water flow were among the intriguing findings. Additionally, 12 stone pillars located below the mountain seem to correspond to aspects of the biblical narrative of the events at Mount Sinai. Despite generating considerable interest and excitement with his detailed findings, Wyatt's research has been met with skepticism by many scholars. Critics argue that his conclusions remain speculative and lack definitive and indisputable archaeological evidence. One of the primary criticisms leveled against Wyatt is his failure to publish his findings in reputable scientific journals or subject them to the scrutiny of fellow experts. Furthermore, his reliance on divining rods and dowsing techniques, which are not recognized as valid archaeological methods by experts in the field, has hampered the acceptance of his ideas. Considering these factors, it becomes evident that no definitive location for the revered Mount Sinai has been unequivocally established. This ongoing lack of clarity and consensus on the matter continues to vex scholars and researchers alike. The search for the true Mount Sinai remains an enigmatic and tantalizing quest, compelling us to delve further into the annals of history and engage in rigorous archaeological exploration. Now let's look at different schools of thought on the location of Mount Sinai. The nature and interpretation of Mount Sinai have given rise to various schools of thought, each offering unique perspectives on its significance and symbolism. One school of thought asserts that Mount Sinai is a literal mountain located in the southern part of the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. Proponents of this interpretation believe that the biblical accounts of Moses receiving the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai should be taken at face value. They argue that the physicality of the mountain adds an element of tangibility and authenticity to the religious narrative. Another school of thought takes a more symbolic approach to Mount Sinai. According to this perspective, Mount Sinai represents a spiritual journey or a state of divine revelation rather than a specific geographical location. Advocates of this interpretation emphasize the metaphorical nature of the biblical narrative, suggesting that Mount Sinai serves as a powerful symbol for the encounter between humanity and the divine. They argue that the mountain's lofty peak and the awe-inspiring presence of God on its summit reflect the transcendent and transformative nature of religious experiences. A third school of thought combines elements of both the literal and symbolic interpretations. It suggests that Mount Sinai may have been a real mountain that served as the backdrop for a profound spiritual event. According to this viewpoint, the physicality of the mountain grounds the religious narrative in historical reality, while its symbolic significance elevates the event to a higher plane of meaning. This perspective acknowledges the interplay between the tangible and the transcendent, offering a nuanced understanding of Mount Sinai's nature and interpretation. Regardless of one's perspective, Mount Sinai continues to inspire awe and reverence. Its association with divine revelation and the delivery of the Ten Commandments has solidified its place in religious and cultural history. Pilgrims from different faiths flock to the region, seeking to connect with the spiritual energy they believe emanates from this sacred mountain. The rugged beauty of the Sinai Peninsula, with its towering peaks and vast deserts, serves as a powerful backdrop for contemplation and introspection. What shocking discovery was made in Saudi Arabia during the search for Mount Sinai? In the course of this remarkable journey, a significant discovery has emerged in Saudi Arabia. While the search for the precise location of Mount Sinai may have seemed futile, the efforts of the researchers were not in vain. During their explorations, fossils were unearthed, revealing a fascinating glimpse into the past. Astonishingly, some of these fossils belong to creatures typically found only in marine environments, such as crocodiles, seahorses, and even hippos. This intriguing find suggests that Saudi Arabia was once a thriving land, teeming with lush vegetation and abundant water bodies. The transition from a vibrant landscape to an arid desert raises thought-provoking questions. How did this transformation occur? What factors led to such a dramatic change? To fully appreciate the significance of the fossil discoveries, it is important to understand the extensive geological history of Saudi Arabia, spanning hundreds of millions of years. The land we now know as Saudi Arabia was once part of a supercontinent called Gondwana. Over time, it underwent remarkable shifts in climate and geography. During certain periods, such as the late Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras, much of what is now desert was submerged under vast seas teeming with diverse marine life. Fossilization, the process by which organic material is replaced by minerals and preserved within sedimentary rock, provides invaluable insights into life on Earth during different epochs. Considering the specific fossils found, such as crocodiles and seahorses, it is essential to consider the environmental conditions in which these creatures thrived. Crocodiles are typically associated with freshwater or saltwater environments, but can also inhabit marine settings. In contrast, seahorses are strictly marine creatures. This suggests that Saudi Arabia was once home to both freshwater and saltwater bodies, including rivers, lakes, and seas. The coexistence of these diverse water ecosystems in the region adds to the intrigue of the findings. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has emerged as a focal point for paleontological studies due to its geologically diverse formations, which are conducive to preserving fossils. Excitingly, researchers have uncovered crocodile fossils dating back to the Miocene era, approximately 23 to 5 million years ago. These discoveries align with the understanding that the Arabian Peninsula boasted lush environments and river systems during parts of this epoch, providing ideal habitats for such species. The fossil record for seahorses is relatively scarce worldwide, primarily due to their small size and delicate skeletal structure, which do not preserve well over time. However, considering that certain regions of Saudi Arabia were once submerged under the ancient Tethys Ocean, it is conceivable that marine life, including ancestral forms of seahorses, may have inhabited those waters. Further investigation and research are necessary to establish specific fossil evidence of seahorses in Saudi Arabia. Studying the fossils of Saudi Arabia opens up a world of scientific exploration and understanding. It offers a glimpse into the ancient environments and diverse life forms that existed millions of years ago. As researchers continue to delve into the geological wonders of Saudi Arabia, we may uncover more captivating evidence that sheds light on the past and unveils the hidden stories of life on Earth. Thanks for watching another episode of Beyond Discovery. While you're still here, click on the other videos you see on your screen right now.